Welcome to Business Aspirin, pain relief for business. Clint Junell has managed a restoration company in Dallas since 2008 and is one of the top drying experts in his region. Clint is also the co-founder of JobDocs, a software developed to help his team manage their overwhelming volume of projects. On the podcast, Clint brings together business managers and leaders to share with you how they have overcome their business pains and how you can too. And now, here's your host, Clint Junell.
Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Business Aspirin. I'm your host, Clint Junell, and today I have with us Attilla Iklady from ATech Consulting up in Idaho. Hey, Attila, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me here, Clint. I really appreciate it.
So tell the people where you're at.
So I am in North Idaho in Coeur d'Alene, but I work up and down the West Coast helping clients pretty much from the Mexican border up to Canada, and then we really go wherever the work is.
Yeah. So right now, if you were to look out that window behind you, it's spectacularly beautiful outside, right?
Oh, yeah. It's probably about a brisk 45.
Nice.
Sun's coming up over the head. You can kind of see the glare in the background, but I got woods, mountains behind me, and a lake not too further back, about a mile. So it's
so amazing. So that's one of the things just in terms of being in DFW that will make me jealous. Now, it is, for those of you listening, typically we don't talk about the date this is recorded, but this is early October. And it should be cooler here. But yesterday, I think it was 94 degrees here in DFW. Ooh. So we're still waiting for that time where you get up in the morning and you get that crisp air. We don't have it yet. Like you kind of want at least just be a little bit crisp. So Coeur d'Alene's a great, beautiful place. So Attila, talk to us a little bit about yourself and how you, what has been your journey? Because I know you had a restoration company and you've done some other things, and now you're doing vendor support for restoration companies in the environmental consulting side of things. And you cover all of the West Coast, I guess?
Yeah. So, we have offices from Southern California up to Seattle, but we are remote. All of our people are remote. So we travel really much all over the world, or not all over the world, all over the U.S., been to Alaska, New York, Texas. We've done work in Texas during some of the storms. Yeah. We go to, the Southeast, Utah for fires. So it doesn't matter. We go wherever the work is.
Okay. So tell us your story.
So, I guess I'll go a little bit back. Obviously, my name is unique. So I was born in Hungary, first generation. Left Hungary in 82 when it was still communist. So we defected, came to the state for the American dream, moved to Ohio, lived on a farm for a few years. And then my dad started a business in a trucking company. So it's kind of built into that, and had it for a few years, probably about 20 plus years, moved out to California where I, finished high school out there. I joined the military, went all over the world, did some work coincidentally with Hungarian army doing some linguistic work when the wall came down. They were trying to join NATO. So that was kind of interesting coming back full circle. And then from there, got out and really started going into business, if you will. I started a production magazine for a long time, had that. And then also from there, kind of sold that off with some business partners, had a falling out. It was we were 24, 25. So, you know how those go. And it was within the entertainment world. So that fell through after a few years, and then went to go worked in some corporate environments, worked in logistics, worked in industrial manufacturing. And then one of my really good buddies from the military, who is up here in Idaho, still has his business, said, "Hey man, you're getting out of that sector. Why don't you start this? Why don't you start a carpet cleaning company, a restoration company?" And I was like, yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't seem glamorous. It's not sexy, right? But I just got laid off, had some money, and I was like, you know what? Let's do it. He's like, come up here for a month. I'll train you. You can work hand in hand. I'll help you launch everything down here. And he still has his business. It's called A New Look Cleaning and Restoration. It's been going since 1999. So he's doing really well. And started that down in SoCal and had it running for about 3 years. Unfortunately, I had some injuries from the military that prevented me from really diving into it from an operator standpoint of view, because I was an owner operator, smaller. I had a couple vans going at the time. And it was just a state of flux where I couldn't find good help. Workers' comp was ridiculous. And I went from 3 vans down to 2, and had a major injury with my back to where I couldn't actually do the work. And I spent about a month and a half out of work. Wasn't generating any revenue. Obviously had all my overhead, had clients and stuff like that. So thankfully, over the course of the business, I built up relationship with competitors, with neighboring contractors. So we would share work. They were busy. I wasn't. I was busy. They weren't. And we would be like, hey, let's have a business partnership. And I don't want to say really share clients, but really help our clients. Really, that was always the crux, is how can we help our clients? And so over that time, I've developed a relationship with other business owners within my market. And when I got to that point where I wasn't working for a month, and coincidentally at this time, it was a perfect storm. I had one guy that went back to school and another guy I had to let go. So I lost 2 of my key people, and I had no one to do any of the work. So I had to make a tough decision. I go, do I just keep doing this? And I couldn't find anyone to just step away from the business and have them train them and run it and just take, almost be like a silent partner in a business. So I came to the tough decision. I go, it's time to sell. And during the course of my business, when I had for 3 years, working with the different business owners, I've developed a good relationship. Like, hey, are you ever thinking about selling? You want to partner? So we've had those cursory conversations. So I reached out to some of my business partners that were competitors in the market. And I said, hey, I'm thinking about selling. Are you still interested? So we courted for about 6 months. And long story short, we ended up selling the business. It wasn't as, I didn't 10x the business, but I walked away clean. I walked away with money in my pocket. So it was good. And over the time, I built good relationships. So full circle, the way I got into consulting is in Southern California, there's SoCal AQMD, a lot of regulations, and one of them being asbestos. Anytime you tear into a wall or disturb a material, you have to have it sampled. So I worked for a company. I went to go work for a company that was my vendor. I developed a relationship with the CEO, and he said, hey, if you're selling your business, you have an extensive sales background. Why don't you come work for us? So I did that. That's how I got into the environmental testing company. Short-lived. I don't know if you're familiar with SoCal markets or the regulations out there, but AAA was their big, Easter egg in the basket, if you will. Well, they went from internal adjusters to independent adjusters. They lost all their business. So again, laid off again, went back to industrial for a long time. Was doing very well, very happy. Went through another round of layoffs, which is always fun. And ATEC Consulting reached out to me. And so didn't really want to get back in the testing world, but because it can get a little dirty, pay to play type thing. Sure. But after talking to the CEO and VP, they said, hey, we're different. We do things differently. All culture is different. So that appealed to me. So we had conversations. So it's been almost 4 years now. I've been with ATEC Environmental Consulting, and they have lived true to their word. And so that's kind of where we're at now. Okay. And I started off with ATEC initially as a account manager. I didn't want to be responsible for people. I didn't want to be responsible for P&L. I just wanted to be responsible for me, myself, and I. So that's kind of where we went, and that's not where we are today. Unfortunately, sure. I dove back into the realm of, I don't want to say P&Ls, but being responsible for people, expansions and things like that. So that's kind of the long-winded story of Attila.
Sure. So now you're the sales manager for ATEC.
Yes.
And so that role entails that you do what?
So ATEC in itself had 2 locations initially. We had Orange County, which is right by Disneyland, Anaheim. Angel Stadium is our corporate office. We had a smaller satellite location in San Diego, and that's where it was 4 years ago when I started. Since that time, obviously, we went through the whole pandemic. In fact, in the very beginning of my career, if you kind of put the timeline together, was COVID, and Southern California shut down. Obviously, restoration, environmental, and things like that were essential, but no one had their doors open. There was no one to go visit. So, smiling and dialing, picked up the phones, and we really started hammering the phones. And I got into an opportunity where we became one of the primary vendors for the entertainment industry to provide COVID compliance, infection control. And so,
like for studios.
For the
Studios.
studios,
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, for the studio. So, we thought it was going to be flatten the curve, 2 weeks, a month. We're going to make a little bit of money. It's going to be great, get us back on the road, supporting our regular clients. And, 2.5 years later, we were still there. Obviously, we still had our existing clients. We support as ATEC in and of itself. We do environmental consulting, anything from lead, mold, asbestos, indoor air quality, Legionella, lead and water. We have a full slew of professional certified people, not just CSST or CACs, which is one of the California terms for certified technicians and asbestos consultants and such like that. But we have ergonomists, certified industrial hygienists on staff. So we do smoke, soot, fire, underground water, environmental impact reports, or excuse me, not environment, annual emissions reports, soil work, ergonomics, safety compliance, OSHA training. So we do a full service of pretty much supporting any industry out there. Specifically, we're heavy in the restoration world. So we work with anyone from, a brand new owner operator all the way up to the big three, the Belfours, the Blue Skies, the ATIs, and thereof, right?
Okay.
We work with large industrial contractors to school districts to hospitals. And so the way I've always built from the very beginning in sales is building a strong network. That's how I was able to grow my business and be profitable. Within 10 months, I was profitable starting out as a carpet cleaner, small time restoration contractor. I was profitable in 11 months because I had a strong network, and I was able to network and build relationships and utilize those relationships. So we continue to still do that. And ATEC is built even prior to me. We've been in business for almost 22 years now, is built on relationship. We're always going to do the right thing in the eyes of the client, and we're always going to do what we said we're going to do and promised. So that's been important. And through the pandemic and even post, we've maintained those relationships. And one of the things that I want to bring to the culture, and I've really specifically since I've been the sales manager for about a year and a half now, is kind of all of our relationships. The way we go to market is on 3 principles. How can I save you money? How can I save you time? And how can I make you look great in front of your clients? Now, that's not just for business owners. It could be for end users. And saving money isn't always being the cheapest. When I had my carpet cleaning company, I wasn't the cheapest guy in town. I wasn't the coupon clipper, $100 for 3 rooms. Right. I wasn't that guy. I started my business in 2012, and I was doing, measuring out everything square footage wise. And I was minimum 37 to 40 cents a square foot back then. And so I did really well, but I did good work. And because I charged a fair price, I could do the extras without trying to charge for it. And then saving time is being efficient, knowing your skill, knowing your trade. And, in our world, in the environmental world, it's how can I help the contractor, whether it's a flood job, whether it's a smoke or an ACM job, how can I help them, give them information, be a positive resource, and be responsive so that your equipment's not idle. You're not making multiple trips. You're bidding effectively your scope, whether you're using EnviroShare or you're scratching it out. Our project managers, our certified people help the contractors save time and in turn save money. And then ultimately for them, it's you as a restoration contractor have a couple clients. You have the homeowner and you have the insurance company. How can we make you look like rock stars in front of them by doing those things? And so that's really the culture that I try and instill. And that can be put into whether you're an owner operator, you're a regional restoration company, or you're a big time player, or even a company like ours, is just sell on those and offer your services on those 3 premises.
Okay. So it's how do I save you money? How do I save you time? And how do I make you look like a rock star? And those are the 3 things that you say, hey, if we do these things and do these well, we're going to attract more contractors and end users that want to utilize us for the services that we provide.
100%. I mean, one of the things that I really go to market, especially when I go into new markets, obviously we have the operation side of a business. So we just launched Northern California. We just opened NorCal, the Bay Area, probably about 5 months ago, effectively having a field presence there and an account manager. And when I go to, one of our existing clients in other markets, I try to, build that relationship. Like, hey, can you introduce me to the operation manager, VP, regional manager, whoever? And really, I go there and go, hey, where are you guys struggling at? What markets are you going into that we support? We can co-market together. So, divide and conquer, put a 10x, 2x on your sales team, but also really helping you grow your business by being the best that you can with our support. So give you an example. I walked into one of our contractors in the Seattle market, which we opened up about 2 years ago, a little bit after I started. That was my first branch expansion because that's part of my role as a sales manager. And one of the contractors that we started building a relationship with took some time and really trying to help them understand, how can I save you money? How can I save you time? How can I make you look great in front of your client without being the cheapest? They had a 3-story nursing home that flooded from a boiler room up, down, and top down on the roof. And water came all the way down to the common hall area. It's a 24-hour skilled facility, right? So it's nurses, things like that, patient care. And the insurance company kind of sat on it. The contractor provided the scope. It was north of around $800,000, $900,000 scope for this project. Big project, pretty good sized project, right? Well, the insurance company, this was it was June of this year, July of this year, I think. And it was hot in Seattle. And the insurance company said, it's been sitting for a while. We stalled on it. It's all dry. It's good. Didn't want to do any more cuts. Didn't want to do moisture mapping. Didn't want to do any investigative stuff. Nothing. And so they're like, your scope goes from your bid of 800,000-900,000. We're going to cut it down to about 600,000-700,000. And it's good. Well, obviously this contractor, they're pretty much, a large contractor nation. They have presence nationwide and such. And they're like, well, that's not good enough for us because our client is not the insurance adjuster, the insurance company. It's the end user, the owner of that building, the owner of the organization. And so they're going back and forth, and the insurance company says, hey, you know what? We're going to bring out our CIH, certified industrial hygienist, not a hygienist, not an industrial hygienist, but a certified industrial hygienist. For people that might not know what a CIH is, and I'm sure they do, but it's kind of like an attorney. Like you're not just going to be a paralegal, you're going to go through the bar exam, right? And pass the bar. So anyways, so they're like, we're going to bring our CIH. My client calls me and says, hey, they're bringing a CIH. We need help. I was like, all right, well, it's Tuesday afternoon. You're calling me, and the job walk is on Thursday, and all my CIHs are in SoCal. So I said, hey, we can bring one up. Unfortunately, it's going to cost because I got to pay per diem. We bill heavy for those guys. I mean, those are like $200,000 salary people. And they're like, I don't care, bringing them up. So we brought them up, and our CIH, in a very polite political manner, says, hey, this is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. This needs to be done. This needs to be done. We went in, my technicians were sitting on site. We're pulling samples as they're doing a job walk. We take them to the lab. We quantify. This is at 10 in the morning. We have results by 4 in the evening. And we can concisely say that this whole entire building is completely still wet 30 days later when it's been north of 90 degrees. So you could just imagine what's in those walls and ceilings.
Little soup you built there. Full on petri dish.
Yeah. And now, mind you, this is a medical facility. It's not a medical facility, but it's a skilled
It's a care facility.
It's a care facility. So there's a lot of liability to go around. And unfortunately, the client, the end user, had to deal with this for an extensive period of time. The project should have took about a month to a month and a half, took 3-4 months, and they're just got wrapped up not too long ago. But the scope went from 900 to 700 up to like 1.4 million. So one of the things we try and do is, number one, help our client, which was the contractor, but their client, who are the patients, as well as the end user building owner, is scope integrity. That's one of the things. We're not the cheapest because we charge a fair price, but we can help you save time, keep moving. I had a guy on site pretty much for an entire week, just standing by as they're going. We're moisture mapping, clearing, reassessing, validating their scope, having conversations with the adjuster. So we're not just emailing back and forth. And then in turn, the end user, the vice president of that facility and the organization, they have 5 regional facilities, loves the contractor because we were able to get their patients back in, because the client, because of the delay for 30 days initially, lost 3 patients, meaning not lost as in they passed, but they lost their
had to relocate
revenue.
them. They had to go someplace else.
And they ended up going with a different organization because their family didn't feel safe there.
Sure.
So it's those things, and how can we mitigate those things? And again, it's back to how can we save you money? How can we save you time? And how can we make you look great in front of the client by collaborating and being open and going, we want to help you, and this is how we're going to do it.
Yeah, sure. So from that perspective, right, you had a client that apparently one of the national larger restoration guys contacts you and says, we need help. So from that perspective, if you're talking to other restoration guys, the mom and pops, and maybe some of the franchise guys, or just a mid-range player, a $3 to $5 million a year guy.
Yep.
What is the trigger? In that case, the trigger for them was somebody was calling another industrial hygienist. They needed support. What is the trigger for someone paying attention on the new side of restoration, saying, this is when I need to call for support? What would make you say, or here's the list of things to look for?
Well, I think, part of it is knowing regulations in your market. Texas is vastly different than California, than Washington, than Colorado, which we do work in all of those markets, and understanding where your regulations are, but really knowing the full scope of where you're involved in and where the handoff is. If you're a smaller shop and you're doing carpet cleaning and quote unquote dabbling in a restoration world, just getting into it, you're not going to be able to do build backs for the most part, again, depending on regulations and things like that, because you might not have a contractor's license. You might not be able to do the abatement if you need to start doing cutting, right? Or whatever the case is, again, depending on your local regulations and what skill sets you have. So understanding where the handoff is and where you can get yourself in trouble. Like in California, you have SoCal AQMD. And if you do a cut, let's say you have a bathroom above a kitchen and you tear into the ceiling to get to the piping, and that has not been sampled yet, and it turns out that is ACM, asbestos containing material, now that is what's called a P5. So you have gross contamination, and you turned a couple $1,000 project into potentially a $50,000, $100,000 lawsuit for yourself, if not more, because now it's gross contamination. You have to have an abatement contractor. You have to have the county involved. You have all those things. So,
and in California, that's residential or commercial.
Residential or commercial, correct. And realistically, understanding that I can go to Home Depot right now and go test 100 pieces of drywall, and and a part of those are going to have ACM in it.
Yeah.
Because they can't sell it, but you don't know what's where it's produced or where it's originated at. Some suppliers will buy product from Canada, Mexico, United States, overseas, wherever it is. So you don't know the sourcing of it. But also you just want to be mindful of your team as well. You want to protect them long run, right? Because, I think the business owners that are like, hey, I just want to make money right now, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to make money, are very short-lived and short-sighted. Versus you take a business owner that is still concerned about the bottom line, margins and P&L. And so they want to charge a fair price, but they're looking at, what does this job, this relationship, this contract mean for me 10 to 20 years down the road? So I think it's having that sight and building your business on a solid foundation versus just kind of running and gunning and doing those things. Now, as business owners, as people within business, you're going to do that. You're just going to get stuck in the grind, in the whirlwind every day. And you're like, hey, I got to make my numbers. I got to pay the bills. I got to make payroll. I got to make my quota from my boss. So you're going to get that. But I always say, build a solid foundation. So back to kind of come full circle on that is really, you can reach out. I think there's a difference between a testing company and a environmental consultant. And I think one thing that sets ATEC apart is, yes, we started off as a testing company back in the day, 20 years ago, but I think we've grown and evolved more into a business partner as a true consultant, because asbestos lead mold sampling are one of 3 of 150 plus services we offer. That would be saying to a large restoration contractor that's, kind of been around, let's say even regionally, right? A $10 million local company that's been around and say, oh, you guys do dry downs or you guys do carpet cleaning. Well, yeah, that is one service that we offer, but it's really partnering with a company that can get you out of trouble, but also help you grow. Because we work with contractors up and down the coast that are smaller shops, whether they've been around for a couple of years. We have a company in Seattle. We just did a large project with them, and it was a municipal contract. They have 2 vans. They've been around for a little bit over a year. And they probably have about 6 techs, some admin operational type people. They're not a huge company yet. They're doing great things. They all are IRC certified. They do, continuing education and things like that. And we met them at a trade show and we're talking, and they had to move a transfer pipe on a municipality sewage system. Right. So they took a 24-inch sewer pipe from one city to another city and had to cut it because they had to get into, I don't understand the whole aspect of it, but they had to get into the pump station. So they had to do a transfer cut. And what they had to do is offload. It was 25 trucks, 3 trips at 660 gallons per truck, that much raw sewage. And they had 10 hours to do it. So we came in and we were talking. They're like, hey, we don't know if we could bid on this contract. And we're like, well, tell us about it. And really, it's dealing with sewage. It's nothing crazy, but we were able to help them, guide them through that scope. And they were able to bid on it through our help. It was 2 days. They had a 4-hour practice run. And then a week later, they ran from 8:00 at night to 6:00 in the morning. And they were the emergency contact on site. We supported them. We were sampling, doing ATP sewage bacteria sampling. We were guiding them on making sure none of the equipment was spilled. Again, this is a municipal contract, so a lot of eyes on it. Sure. And you had a small-ish local restoration contractor bid on a job that most one-year contractors aren't going to bid on.
Yeah.
So it's little things like that. So that's how I think you can leverage relationships.
And it potentially swung their business the right direction, right? At the same 100%. Time, could have very easily destroyed their business if not done correctly, without the support you guys provided, all of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Let's just say the neighborhood where this was, you're not going to touch a house for under $5 million. So a lot of eyes, very, very high end, a lot of people, a lot of eyes on this project. And that's why they did it later in the evening overnight, is so that it doesn't have all that traffic.
Yeah, sure.
But it definitely positioned the client to move forward and grow their business.
Yeah. And got them some accolades probably from that municipality that they helped serve. And they probably earned a lot of business from them as a result, and willingness to step out, plus trust in someone like you. And that's big too, in terms of like the guys that are listening to this podcast, then they go, wait a minute, that's what I need. I need somebody that can support me. And you said something very early in the conversation, which was, you tried to build relationships with the other people and share work between other companies. And so many guys, especially when they're starting out or when they're still small enough, everybody is competition, and you don't want to communicate with them, and you want to stay away from them, and you want to, do whatever you can to try to make sure that they have a bad reputation and a bad name, and to put yourself and elevate yourself above them. And that's what we hear over and over and over again in terms of any service industry business, not just restoration. But what you said is, build these relationships, and then in those relationships, support those relationships as well. And I think that's spectacular in terms of, okay, now we can go, I need to find a relationship with someone that can give me the support. Me in DFW, I need to find somebody that is like Attila in DFW that can provide the kind of support that I need to have for this same type of environment. In that case, it may be you, right? But I know guys in Idaho that are doing restoration work, and they need to make contacts with guys like you for that support. And so nationally as well. And that's one of the things I'm happy to make sure that when we send some of this stuff out, it has contact information for your company. I'm like, hey, if you need to contact, if you run into a situation where you suddenly have X as a service that you need to provide, reach out. maybe it's something you can help with. Maybe it's something you can't help with. But maybe if you can't, you have a connection because you build connections and because you work to try to support the client and do what's right. And it's interesting. Like a friend of mine, because I know you served in the military, I have a friend that's an amputee Marine that started. At one point, it was an organization called 22 Kill. That's where the 22 Push-Up Challenge came from for a long time.
Yep.
These guys started this. It's now called One Tribe Foundation, and I do a lot with those guys and support some stuff that they support as well. And so we were chatting just this last week, and he said something to me that I thought was really unique, and I'm going to start utilizing it more and more with my team. But I think it applies here too. And it's do the right thing for the right reason. Trust God for the rest. Bad days are guaranteed. And so it's the reality is, even when you do everything that you're doing, sometimes it's not going to work out exactly like you'd hope. Fortunately, in this case with your client, it did go well. You did make it go smooth. They were rock stars at the end of the day, and now they get a chance to grow because of you did the right thing for the right reason, and you're trying to be positive and trying to develop. And I think it's beautiful, man. I love it.
Yeah, I think, with smaller contractors, I mean, I'm sure, I don't know the dynamic of Dallas, Fort Worth. I've been there. I was actually just there in November, and I was hoping to be there first time again in November this year, but I wasn't able to make it with my schedule. But I'm sure everyone on this podcast that's listening is hearing about, I call it the new pandemic, which is fentanyl and meth. And we do a lot with that. Obviously, we have infection control consultants. We have CIHs that understand how to handle this. And one of my big pushes, number one, I actually care. I mean, not that I actually care, but I do really truly care for the end user, the victims, the people that are involved with fentanyl and meth and how they affect people. And I think a lot of times we lose sight of the connection where we as a contractor, as a company, play a part in that, right? Is how do, we want to restore houses back to their original state, whatever the case is, and in turn, make revenue. Well, I think one thing that let's say you have a flood. Okay, that flood's going to affect the family, right? With fentanyl and meth, there's so many people along that line that it affects. So I'm really passionate about it. And one of the things that we do is we train contractors. Like I said, we are an OSHA certified trainer. We have CSPs on staff, but we also train contractors just day to day for no charge on, hey, if you're setting up containment, if you're doing moisture mapping, if you're doing this, our project managers or CACs do that as being part of really our tribe, if you will. So we do, we do lunch and learns, and generally lunch and learns are 15 minutes, kind of informative. Sure. But we have a contractor that we're going to be doing. We help them do a fentanyl meth project for the first time ever in a hospital. There was an OR, someone came in, OD'd, and they had a bunch of fent and meth on it. We wrote the work plan. We wrote the whole entire infection control, ICRA and everything for it, helped them set up containment. And now they're like, hey, come back in. Can you come in and provide training for our team so that we can go after this segment that they never went after before? But one of the things for smaller contractors, and in the state of California, all you have to be able to do legally fentanyl and meth work is a HAZWOPER. That's it. The state of Washington is different. You have to have your HAZWOPER, and you have to have Department of Health approved vendor training through a certified trainer through the Department of Health. So it's kind of more convoluted. It takes about 6 months. But for California specifically, and I don't know Dallas's requirements, you have to have a HAZWOPER. Well, great, you have a HAZWOPER. Great, I'm IRC certified. And I've heard one of your other people on your podcast say, great, now that you don't know the day-to-day of it, but you can partner with a company like us. We can train your technicians on how to safely do it, both from your operators and your employees, but also to properly decontaminate if possible, or to do a full tear out. Most of the fentanyl meth projects we do are full gut, full build back. So there's a tremendous amount of revenue for a contractor that normally would think, oh, I don't want to do that. It's not safe. We can help you and train you how to do it as long as you have your own and make it safe. So again, how can we save you money, save you time, and make you look great in front of your clients? Well, now you can offer
and keep you alive. and keep you alive.
Because a lot of, you were talking earlier about competition. When someone starts out, well, I mean, there's so much work to go around. There's probably not enough contractors today to do all the work that needs to be done, because you have a contractor that, hey, I want to go after high volume. I want to do apartments and low end property management. That's your niche. I want to do all high end boutique. I want to work in commercial sector. I want to work in hospital sector. I have a contractor in LA that all they do nothing but is entertainment industry. Multi-million-dollar company, probably a $15 million company. All they do is entertainment. That's it. And they're generally a carpet cleaning, flight restoration, janitorial company. That's all they do. So there's so many niches.
Yeah.
And it's how can we help a contractor get into a new niche, get into a new vertical, grow their existing business if they're new. Let's partner together. Let me show you what we can do. And let me introduce you to people. Because we co-market, it's like, hey, I know Clint in Dallas, and you guys are, let's say you're making a push out to California. It's like, oh, cool. Hey, we got this event, that event. Let's go around and co-market together. And let me introduce you to some people. What verticals are you going after? You're going after schools? No problem. Here's this M&O director. Here's a facility manager. Here's the superintendent. Here's the facility director for Kaiser Hospital, Hoag Hospital, Providence, Peace Health, all contractors, all hospitals that we work with. So it's like, how can we leverage our relationship,
right,
and then help each other grow?
Well, that's what the world is about, right? It's about connections. It's about relationships. I love it. Okay, so I want to be respectful of your time, and we've kind of passed what we are supposed to do, but I've enjoyed it, and I'm glad we're doing it. What is the single biggest piece of information from your perspective that you would give to someone that is in the restoration space and trying to grow or develop or, hit that next milestone?
I would say, don't be afraid to ask for help. I really think that that's it, because I think, you might know everything, but not in all scenarios.
Well, I clearly know everything.
Well, that's why we're here today. But I mean, even our CIHs who have been in the industry for 30 years, whenever we bring a project up, and we have quite a few CIHs on staff, they powwow, because their 30 years of experience, while is immense, might not have come up with that thought process or that solution. And it's groupthink. So they kind of spitball it around. They're like, hey, this is how I want to do it. And someone will be like, that's a great idea, but have you considered this? Or have you thought of that? And I think that's even great for the new business owner, whether it's a restoration contractor, a carpet cleaner, or you're doing janitorial type work. Or even if you've been in the business for a while, is reach out, utilize your network, and ask questions and ask for help. And don't feel that it's mine. You have to keep it. It's mine. I can't tell you about it because it's a secret. And
I think it's great, man.
If you operate from scarcity, you're gonna run out of business.
That's right.
So ask for help and be open.
That's right.
That'd be my
help them. And I love doing that with them. I mean, I help. We've got clients that are restoration companies as well, and I love being able to serve them and help them and support them in whatever I can, even those that aren't clients. Right? Like I still try to help them and try to serve.
You're helping the industry right now.
Well, I'm trying. Really, I'm just asking questions, and you guys are helping the industry, and I'm just getting it published out there. It's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love it. Okay, so in your case, the things that I'm hearing you say that are significant and important are build relationships, make connections. With those relationships, because those are going to lead to other opportunities and other things that can happen for you. And then even for the restoration contractor, I think they can still apply your strategy to their sales, which is, how can I save you money? How can I save you time? And how can I
make you look great?
Make you look great, right? And so in that case, it's still it's make you look great in front of the wife because you made the decision to do this, or make you look great in front of the husband because you made the decision to do this, and potentially even support in, depending on what your method of getting business, the insurance company, and make it look great there and all of those things. And I love it, man. So super excited to have you on, Attila, man. I'm so glad that you took the time to join me. And I'm grateful for you being here. And I look forward to chatting with you in the near future.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it and wish you all the best.
Hey, actually, one last thing before we go, because I want to get this on the podcast. Tell us again where your guys' offices are and where you serve.
So our offices are located corporate in Orange County, California, San Diego, Northern California Bay Area, and Seattle. But so we serve the greater West Coast, but we go everywhere. Dallas, actually, that's on the books for our future expansion, Colorado and Dallas soon, hopefully next year. But we really go for larger scale project, for obviously, a single family residence doesn't make sense for us to fly to Texas. But if it's a large scale project, disasters, we're not storm chasers. However, we've done plenty of projects where, there's a catastrophe, a tornado, a thunderstorm, a hailstorm, whatever the case is. We'll go wherever the work is. But for the most part, anywhere on the West Coast.
But if anybody's looking for a relationship like that, you're happy to have a conversation with them, whether they're in 100%. Your market right now or not, and see what can develop.
We do it all the time for our existing clients that are in like Minneapolis. I had a conversation with a contractor for fentanyl and meth. So phone calls are free. They can reach out anytime. And if you want, I can pass you my contact information. And
we'll make sure that Martise and those guys get it all put together with everything, so it's available when people reach out. They can have it and kind of go from there, man. But again, I appreciate so much you being on here, and we'll chat. You and I for sure are going to chat soon.
All right, take care. Thank you so much. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
This has been a Business Aspirin, Pain Relief for Business podcast. If you're a business owner trying to overcome your business pains, follow us on Apple Podcasts or visit our website for more information, job-docs.com.